Welcome to Made for Mondays, the source for digging a little deeper into the Believers Church Sunday messages and finding ways to apply them to our daily lives. Together, let's take a deeper look and find a way to bring Mondays back to life.
Hey everybody, welcome to the pod. My name is Heather, and who are you fellas?
Hey there, Heather. It's me, Jamie.
Hello.
And Sam is here as well. Hello, everybody.
Good to see you this morning.
Yeah.
How was your weekend?
I should have thought about that. We talked about all the things and then
Everything but your
So
weekend.
we did have the highlight of my weekend was Queen Esther's first birthday party.
Oh, great.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that was very fun.
1 year has passed
One
already?
year has passed already. It was the 12th was her actual birthday. Celebrated a couple days after.
Oh, she shares Kendra's birthday.
Yeah, she does.
Did you do the cake?
They tried to do the cake smash thing with
Yeah.
her. And she was so good. Like she's not a real whiny kid, so like she's handling all the stuff. She's doing really great. But by the time it was cake time, she'd kind of had it.
Oh, she was done with the party.
Sarah was trying to give her the idea, so she pushes her hand in the cake, and then she just looks at her hand and started crying.
Oh, it's too
It was
much.
funny. It was too much.
Yeah.
She had a great day.
Probably
though.
nap time,
Yeah,
too.
it was
It's all
also
the
nap
things.
time. It was
Yeah.
all the things. But yeah, it was super fun. We had a good time.
Maybe she takes after you, and she had reached her socialization limit.
That's very possible.
Yeah.
Yes. I felt like crying at about that point of the party.
You did.
Yeah. For that reason. Yeah.
Right.
I'd pretty much socialized enough.
Yeah.
There's enough people for the
Yeah.
day.
It's 2 hours. That's
That's
about
plenty.
right.
That's a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah, so
that's fun.
That was my weekend
Oh,
mainly.
very
Wow.
good. Good, Sam.
So our family shifted our viewing back out to the garage.
Oh.
okay.
So garage open because it was so
Yeah.
nice,
Yeah.
even though it was very windy.
Does the TV get super polleny?
Yeah, it's pretty nasty. a lot of cleaning going
Yeah.
on. But it was Masters week.
I know.
So
I did watch some Masters also. Not as much as Nate
No.
or you. but
yeah, so
I did watch some.
I had
hour
a
on Saturday,
pretty
an hour on
awesome
Sunday.
sports Saturday lined up for all of the things. So we had a couple TVs out in the garage and just doing some cleanup. And then Mason had his football game, so we went to that. But I watched a lot of Masters this weekend, so I wish I had a bunch of awesome stories, but
I mean,
that was pretty much it.
there were some great stories from the Masters.
Yeah, it was all right. I was a little bummed yesterday.
Oh,
I
yeah?
mean, I like Scotty a lot.
Uh-huh.
I just was hoping for some drama. You want some drama there, and he just
Sound
kind
just
of,
like Nate.
he just
So
kind of
he
ran
pulled
away with
way
it.
out. And
Yeah,
like,
and he was.
I watched the end of Saturday, and then I watched the end of Sunday.
Yeah.
And it was pretty tight at the end of Saturday.
Yeah.
And he was a mile ahead by the time I tuned in on Sunday. So.
Yeah.
Well, Scotty loves Jesus, and he always says the right things right now. So for him to be on that spotlight and how he handles himself, it's pretty amazing. So I wasn't like angry that he won. I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
But he was like being
2
quite.
times in 3 years.
Yes, and his wife is due like any day.
what I saw,
So that
yeah.
was the whole story. Is like,
Yeah.
if she goes into labor, you're gonna leave, and he's like, yeah, I'm leaving.
Yeah, I
I'm
heard that he
definitely
said that
leaving.
no matter what it is,
in
he
the
will
lead or
leave.
not.
Yeah.
So part of me was kind of hoping because I was like, that would be such a great
Yeah, that would be
testimony
some-
to speak to. But yeah, it's cool how it worked out. But,
I loved how you guys were watching a little bit in your office yesterday,
Yeah.
and Addie and Mason were in there with him, and Addie was like, I would for sure be staying. She
Yes.
was like, I'm for sure staying.
Addie was like, no, I would not
yeah,
leave.
we were like, yeah, Addie, we know you would be
Yes.
staying.
And that's why you need to wait a long time before having kids.
So funny.
Oh, I do have a funny story to sing it. So Friday, we played golf Friday morning, and it was so windy.
It was super windy.
So by like the 11th hole, I was done. I was like, can we just go back and watch the Masters now? And the guys I were playing, no, we need to finish this round, blah, blah, blah. So we finished it all up. So we get back to Nate's house and we start watching. There's 3 of us. And within an hour, we're all just passed out snoozing. Just 3 grown men taking a nap in the living room. I wake up and they're both sleeping. I was like, oh man, this is so us.
That's funny.
Oh man, yeah. So that was our weekend. It was all Masters and
Yeah.
hanging out with the family. So it was good.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a good weekend.
That was that's all Nate does this
Yeah,
weekend.
I
It's
know.
like his one weekend a year that nothing else happens at our house.
No house
The
is sold, no nothing.
No.
Yeah, right. You can wait.
Yeah.
The TV is on the whole time. He's sitting on the couch the whole time. So I'm just busy
I told you,
doing
I
anything else.
almost texted him on Saturday and asked if he had any dollar sandwiches
Yeah.
left.
Yeah.
But do the Judah thing because that's awesome too.
Oh, it is so sweet. So our one nephew, Judah, he loves sports. He loves watching sports. He doesn't, they do jujitsu. So like that's like the activity that they do. He doesn't like really play other sports, but he loves to watch. Like any sport that he can watch on TV, he's all about it. But he's been coming over to watch the Masters with Uncle Nate, like since he was, I think maybe like 6.
Oh, wow.
Like one day of the Masters, he comes over for like a couple of hours during one of the days, and he brings his little lunch. He sits on the couch, and they watch together, and he's like locked in since he was little.
That's funny.
And so, they had their date on Saturday.
Nate sent a picture to the guys,
cute.
and I think he took a nap. He fell asleep,
He did
and I
take
was
a
like,
little nap.
"That's, I mean, it's what you're
It's
supposed
what
to
you-
do when you
It's what
watch
you
golf.
do.
You
Yeah.
take a nap, right?
Yeah.
It's the perfect nap.
Yeah.
So
So sweet. Yeah, but he loves it. So, he did that. Nate did actually on Saturday morning, he took a listing appointment. And so he went to on
Good job,
Masters
Nathan.
Saturday.
And he did
Took a
come to
listing
church,
appointment.
too.
Yeah,
And
no, I
he-
was surprised.
He did come to church.
Second
yes.
service.
So I saw him there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, speaking of that, I know you
I
didn't
even
get
gave
to
him
it.
I even gave him a little nod, a little wink, because
Yeah.
I've talked with him about my dad and the real estate story for so many years.
Yeah.
Just one more call.
Just one more call. Uh-huh.
I was going to talk about Sunday, but you can talk about your weekend.
Yeah. So anyway, I did some I've talked about it a little bit here. Nate's dad has had quite the year of health battles. So he's been doing a lot recently with like getting some nutrition stuff back. So we've been trying to help with some meals and stuff. So while these guys were watching on Friday, I was cooking up some meals for them. So I did a lot of that and delivered that on Saturday. But it was a lot of stuff at the house, but it was a good, and the weather was so great this weekend, besides the wind,
Yes.
but the sun, and
Yeah.
it was a great weekend.
Bonnie's
for all
having
that.
to lay low, so
Right.
so yeah. She hasn't really left the house, except she did go to the birthday party, and then she was exhausted by the time we left,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's been a thing.
And then I mean, that was all great, and I enjoyed it, but I think my highlight was Discovery X yesterday.
Oh
Like,
my
it was
gosh.
just such a great,
Discovery
fun.
X was so great.
really cool
Yeah.
class.
Yeah, we're going to talk about, obviously, the message in a little
Yeah.
bit, but let's talk about Discovery X.
Yeah. Go
Go ahead. Well, I was gonna say if you don't know what it is,
Yeah.
it's just an entryway into like who we are as believers and Believers Church. So it's a 4-week class, right?
Yep.
So I hadn't been to
4-week
one in a while.
experience. We don't call it a class.
That is my, and that's those are great corrections there. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
So this experience, I hadn't been to one because it's lunch with Jamie, so I hadn't been there in a while. But we're in tables and we're just kind of going through. It's like an initial connections.
Yep.
And then all the other weeks are during the second service.
Yep.
Correct.
Which it's been really successful, and I think like the timing of it, like when we put it and where it happens, I just think that has part of the success to
Yeah,
it.
one of the people that I met yesterday wanted to attend the previous Discovery experience, but it was full.
Yeah.
So she waited till this
Yeah,
one.
so you got to sign up. And the idea is like you need to go to one of the 4, or you need to go to all of the 4 weeks, but it doesn't have to be
in
in
succession.
sync. You can
Right.
just find. So if you miss the second week, you can catch that the next
Yep.
month. So I just think it's really, really accessible, which is awesome. And Pastor Tyler's doing such a great job with that.
Yep.
So I hadn't been there. So we get in there and I'm sitting around my table and I'm talking to people, and our table's awesome. And so Tyler gets up and we play a trivia game.
Yep.
List the most presidents, right?
Presidents.
Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah, he couldn't decide which one he wanted. Presidents
Or states, I think it was.
it's cities.
Cities.
I was like, that was going to be just cities.
Let me think.
Which one do we want to do here? It's like, you could have thought of this before, Tyler.
Seriously.
I love him.
He cracks me up.
So we do presidents. And I think our table got 17, so we won the first game.
We had 16.
Yeah,
at our
so it was really
table.
close.
Yeah.
But I just that was really fun, and we just had some characters at our table that
did
were
have, yeah.
so great. But then he like invites Jamie up, so everybody claps for Jamie. Good job, Pastor Jamie. He gets up. Jamie tells his story, which was so good. Then he sits down. I was like, okay, that was good. So we start answering questions. Then Tyler gets up and welcomes Jamie back up again. I was like, are we clapping for this guy every time?
Every time.
Every
Start and finish.
Again. Yeah.
Before, as I'm walking up and as I'm finishing up. Yeah.
They loved you in that room yesterday.
I had lots of rounds of
applause. If I was ever going to lead an experience, that's how it'd be.
but I will say, it felt like a golf clap.
Yeah, it was getting a little bit, it was getting spaced out at the end because I was like, I'm not clapping for that. I was telling my table, don't clap anymore.
But you were doing it.
But then I was like, I got to clap for him.
Normally, just for the record, nobody claps.
I know.
Oh, man.
This crew, they did love you.
They clapped.
That's crazy. You got to clap. Yeah.
It's hilarious.
No, I think Tyler does such a great job with it.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I don't know. If you've been at Believers for a long time, you should try to sneak into one of the, I don't know if this is allowed.
Yeah, you can do that.
You should sneak in if you can. Like, don't take a spot from somebody, but it is just, it almost like reinvigorates you to be like, to remember, like they were asking like, well, where were you guys before this? And I was like, before this, it was Peak Trail. You don't know about Peak Trail?
Right.
So I was trying to explain it to him, but it's so good. Yeah, it was a great class.
I think it's great because that first week, the lunch with Jamie thing, like you said, like people don't know the history
a lot of
of
those
things.
stories,
like that's it's like broken up into 3 different segments the first week. So Jamie tells like his story, he tells the story of Believers, and then he tells like God's story.
Yeah.
And so it is just this like kind of this real brief in an afternoon. We get to have pizza from Gianna's. Who doesn't want that?
It's so good.
And and get to know like people, and that's what I
goal.
think is so fun. Like you're sitting at this table of people, nobody knows each other.
Yep.
And so I think that's really disarming to everybody because it's like they all realize that they're in a room full of people that are all here. They're kind of all at the same stage.
That's what I was going to say. Yeah. No one knows each other, but they're all experiencing the same thing.
Yep.
They're coming into a church trying to figure it out. Yeah.
Exactly.
So we have like table leaders. So generally it's staff. So we're all sitting there.
Jim, did you go to each table? Or you tried? Like
I tried. I didn't get to your table.
Oh, okay. Because I didn't notice that. Because the last time you talked, you came and sat at our table, and I was like, "Oh man, am I doing something wrong?"
No, I started at the one table.
I felt
then
like
I went to Rhonda's table. Then I went to your table, and I didn't.
It's like when you're doing group learning in school, and then like the teacher would come sit at your table. You're like, "Oh, we're not doing what we're supposed to be doing right now."
Yeah.
So
you kind of felt like it was one of those moments.
Yeah, I thought you were kind of
Samuel, come sit with your mother.
Yes.
Yeah,
it was so good. It was such a great class. So.
Yeah, and it's fun to just hear where everyone's like at the table. I love being at those. Like you get to meet people and hear their stories and how they found out about Believers, and like at my table, they're like just where everyone came from and how they found out about us. And I just love it.
Yeah, we had a retired couple at our table,
much.
and they're just so excited. I mean, she's like so excited to get plugged in, and like I just want to start. Like you could tell she has a heart for service, so it's just cool to see what God's going to do with that.
Yeah,
Awesome.
It was fun. There was a couple at another table that both from New York, one from New York City, one from Rochester part of New York, and just hearing their faith story, very different than some similarities to my story growing up in New York, but just very different and new to a non-denominational scene, and not sure they're trying to figure out their path, but they loved it. They had it was a great experience for them, so it's just kind of fun.
Yeah. I had a couple at my table, or not a couple, an older woman at my table who like completely like grew up in the church and then kind of took a little walk away from it after like she's in her 70s and like walked away from it after about 50 years of like growing up in the church.
Wow.
And then like even got involved in like Scientology for a little while and stuff like that, and was just really like exploring some things. And she said, and then she just kind of found that she needed to just get back to finding like a church home. And found us online, started watching online, came one time and she really enjoyed it, but also felt like she was too old. Like she was maybe too old to be here.
Yeah.
So then was like, oh, I should probably find somewhere, and thought she needed to go back to like a more traditional space. And then she lives in like a 65 and older community, and was talking to a friend there, and she said, well, you should just come to church with me, and came to church here.
So funny.
And she was like, well,
I guess this is where I'm
okay.
All right.
So she's been coming ever
and you had
since.
a lot of, like, I know we're getting to your question about who's retired. It was loud in second service. So
first service too.
That's just so funny. And I was like, well, see, you're supposed to be here. And
the
we're glad
diverse
you're
ages
here.
is pretty awesome.
It is.
Yeah, that was like really neat. And then another person at my table like lives in your neighborhood. And so it was just nice. Really cool to hear everyone's such diversity and stuff. It's so great. All right, so before we jump into this week's message, anything that stood out to you in this week's reading? Jamie, do you want to tell on yourself?
I'll tell on myself.
Okay.
I have not done my reading yet today, which is very unusual for me, but I had a physical appointment this morning, and so I got out of bed, got a quick shower, ran out the door, totally out of my routine. So I have not done my first 15
You
yet.
missed a dentist appointment last week. Was that last week?
No, I didn't miss a dentist appointment. I had a dentist appointment a couple weeks ago, but I didn't miss one.
But you were like almost late to it or something.
Oh yeah,
right?
I was. Yeah, I was almost late.
That
to it.
like threw you off with that appointment.
Yeah.
You just had a little bit of.
Yeah, so I have done my John Ortberg thing when I first got to the office, going through the Sermon on the Mount. Today was the Pearls Before Swine episode.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have not done my reading yet. So
Well,
I don't have anything from this week's reading. But last week I wrote in the outlet about the one day at a time. We're in the Sermon on the Mount. Yeah, I guess today we got out of the Sermon on the Mount. But that whole one day at a time thing.
That was so good. You shared that with staff, and I was so glad you like passed that along to everybody else.
And with my daughter, that's been like one of my themes with her for many, many years, just talking to her about just one day at a time. And so like, it's one of those things. It's also an AA thing, so growing up in 12-step circles, that was the refrain that I would hear frequently. And I just love that a refrain that's so like universally kind of accepted as like, this is an important principle. And it comes from Jesus, which I think is really great.
Yeah.
Well, it's like when you sent it out, it's almost refreshing. It takes like a weight off you. Mm-hmm. Because, you're thinking about 2 months, 3 months, 4 months from now, and just to sit in the day, like, man, that's just such a weight being lifted. So that was perfect timing.
Yep.
I was trying to think we were talking about the reading, shifting on that a little bit. So mine was, we pulled it back up today, but it was the guy who was coming to Jesus about his servant.
The Roman officer.
Yeah, the Roman officer. And I just thought, I was reading kind of in between, and I was like, how crazy, like, what did Jesus see in this guy's faith? Because I feel like we've read other stories that people have come to Jesus and been like, I know you can heal. Like, or like the woman grabs his clothes. Like, like, what was the difference in faith or was he just like, I got a schedule to keep to, so I can't go back. Your faith's good, man. She's healed. Like that kind of thing. That kind of got in my head this morning as I was reading through all of the other things, the demons and stuff. But that just stood out to me as like, I want that kind of faith. I wonder how you can get that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that part of today's reading too. Like, or the fact that like with the Roman officer, he was like, telling Jesus, like, you don't need to come to my house. Like, you can, I know you can do it right here. Like, first of all, I'm not like worthy for you to come to my house. Like, and I feel like that's probably how I would have been more in like around Jesus. Like, I don't want you to, I could not imagine like Jesus coming into my house. Like, that kind of thing. So that idea of like, you can probably do this thing from here would be, that's
phone
just
it
so
in,
amazing.
Jesus.
Yeah.
So good.
I can't imagine. That's incredible. So this week we got into work. And I love just how this was set up to like come off of Doug's message from last week.
You know, it was funny. It didn't even really occur to me until you were doing the welcome
didn't?
yesterday. I'm like, oh yeah, rest and then work.
Now work,
Hilarious. I was thinking about that last week when Doug was talking with his message, and then like knowing that was coming up, like, oh man, this is like such great tension to like sit in.
No, it was good. I was glad you brought that up.
So we talked about rest, and then we're talking about work, and I just love this setup with that. But you opened with this survey, and when you came out on stage, I love that the students do this. Like they give in the second service, we have
a little extra hoop.
A big presence of students in the second service, and they always like give a little shout out to whoever's coming on stage. So you acknowledge them, but
I also love that they have like their own. It's almost like the back row. That's where we sat as youth students. They've got their like up in the corner. And like that's the worst seats in the house, but that's where
that's where they're going to be. Yeah.
Over at Peak Trail, we were talking about that in the old section before we moved.
That's what I called them.
Yeah.
It was the overflow section.
They'd sit on that side.
It was awful, those seats. But that's good because then the adults didn't have to sit over there.
That's right.
But so you did this survey and you were asking us about like our relationship with work.
Yep.
But you addressed the students ahead of time and you said, I want you to think about this. Like your job right now is
learning. School.
Yeah, school.
Yep.
So I just, as part of our conversation today, I just wanted us to talk a little bit about like you made a point to speak directly to them yesterday. And I know that it's important for you to do that. It's important for all of those of us who teach to directly speak to different generations in the room because we are a multi-generational church. So
very much so.
Why is that an important part of our church family? Like, why do we think that's a gift?
Yeah. And, I would say like even the other side of that is we don't super frequently acknowledge the retirement side of that equation either. So sometimes, like you can just kind of get laser focused on talking to 25 to 45-year-olds, or whatever, and forget that there's younger people in the room and there's some older people in the room. And the reality is the message is relevant to every person in the room. And we don't teach at a level that is confusing to students, we keep it pretty bottom shelf and we don't talk down to students. That's just how that's how all of us teach. We try to make it super accessible and relatable. And so, I want to make sure that students in the room, they're not checking, especially on a topic such as work, like, look,
this isn't relevant.
This isn't relevant to me, so I'm just going to check out for the next hour. I wanted to acknowledge, like, there's something here for you. And same for the retired folks. If you're talking about work, like, oh, man, I've already checked out of my career. I'll tune in next week, wanted to make sure that they knew it's relevant to them too.
Yeah, and I just think it's good for people to know, like if you're not on staff, like we talk about this a lot. Like we want to be diverse in ethnicities, but we're also like in age as well.
Yeah.
Because we want to reflect what our church looks like.
Yeah.
And while we're not like perfect in all those aspects, we like it is a thing. Like we want that to be all inclusive of that kind of thing. Like it doesn't matter how old you are, like you can serve. It doesn't matter how young you are.
Yep.
We're gonna find areas for you to serve and do those kind of things. So I love that about this.
Me too.
And there's so much that like we can all learn from each other.
For
like,
sure.
I think even, as we've built back the prayer team, even that's been a thing that we've been talking about. Like it's so important when we're asking like the prayer team to come forward to see like different ages represented up there. I think it's important for people to be able to talk to people that are older than them and get wise counsel from people that have like walked, in their shoes ahead of them. But then it's also important to like learn from people that are what kids are experiencing now and what teens are going through. And like, I don't know what they're experiencing. And so I want to hear what what life is like and the challenges that they're facing. So I just love how we're trying to, I mean, like you said, Sam, we're not doing that perfectly, but that we're trying to be open to hearing from
we're aware of it.
one another. Yeah. So, Jamie, you walked us through the first chapter of Genesis, and you were making the point that part of God's character is creator.
Yeah.
And he hasn't stopped creating. So I loved, even how you were talking about the Webb.
The James Webb telescope.
Yeah, telescope, and that we're just continuing to see and learn about his creation. So you told us that humans were made in God's image, and we've done a pretty good job of fulfilling our command of filling the earth, but not such a great job of tending to and governing it, which led us into chapter 2. And that brought you to the story you shared about your dad and his career as a real estate broker, which had a pretty dramatic effect on your family dynamics. You shared some of that in Discovery X, but can you revisit that a little bit for us?
Yeah, so my dad was very much a workaholic, and he owned his own business, which on the one hand, you can set your own, it gives you lots of freedom, but on the other hand, it also gives you lots of responsibility. And he had,
pressure too.
30 different agents working for him, and so he had to resource them, and then he also was pretty active on the selling side of stuff. And, clients, when they're not at work, that's when they work with their realtor. So, he was available whenever anyone needed him. That's just kind of how he operated. And it created a lot of strain on our family. So, I remember when I was a kid, I'd never met my mom's parents. They were deceased before I was born. They both died relatively young. But my dad's parents, they only lived about 2 hours away, 2.5 hours away. We almost never went to see them because my dad wouldn't take a whole weekend to go. And I remember a time that my mom just packed John and I in the car and said, "We're going to see your parents, whether you are going to go or not."
Yeah. Wow.
It was that kind of stuff all the time. And we didn't go on vacation because my dad didn't want to take time off of work. And so if we did go on vacation, we often went to Shenango Valley State Park and rented a cabin. And,
beautiful.
And it was fun, we took our bikes and there was a lake there and whatever, but it was 45 minutes outside of town. And every once in a while, my dad would show up and spend a night, but most of the time not.
Yeah.
And so it was just that kind of stuff. My dad was, I vividly remember dinner at the table and my mom would put his plate in the oven to keep it warm, and he would eat it whenever he got he was never home for dinner. So that was my dad. He did not handle life work balance well.
Yeah, I had 2 conversations in the comments about your dad's story, and they were really just trying to balance that too, because they're they see that in themselves as well with the work side of things. One was a realtor, and he's just like, I know I need to provide, but also I've seen in this season of life, I started giving up a few things, and I've seen the benefits of that too. So I think it's just, that's a hard thing to work through for people.
It is a hard thing. And I've struggled, through the years, I've struggled to maintain a healthy balance. And if, it is true, if you're passionate about that's the other side of that. My dad was very passionate about what he did, and he loved it. And my dad was 83 when he passed away. And I said yesterday, he worked up until the end. And when I say up until the end, I went to see him in the hospital 10 days before he passed away.
Yeah.
And as I'm walking towards his hospital room, I could hear him on the phone with another agent saying, "I really want to get this deal tied up this week."
Yeah.
It's
kind of life or death.
He literally worked up until the end and loved it. It wasn't that he probably did have to work, but he would have done it no matter what, because he loved what he did, and he loved the people that he served. That was part of what he loved. And so, if you're passionate about what you do, that's really great. Who doesn't want to be, you don't want to not be passionate about what you do, but if you allow that passion for what you do to overshadow other priorities like family or, faith or those things that have to come into alignment for a healthy life, well, then that's a problem. And that's the curse side of work that we looked at from the fall is it does create those, those tensions do exist, and that is evidence of the fall. So we lose our identity in our jobs, and we lose ourselves in our priorities in our jobs, and our families, sometimes can be poorly served because of our work. And, all of those tensions that we have to try to figure out are all evidence of the fall.
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah. So you mentioned that Kiplinger journal.
Yeah.
And
very,
the quote.
very popular.
Everyone's
journal.
reading it these days. Yeah.
It's very good.
Yeah, the Kiplinger Financial Report.
This
man.
idea
I love
of
it.
like
Love when it comes out.
mourning the loss of who we were once we cross that retirement threshold, because so much of our identity gets tied to what we did versus who we are.
Yep.
So, yeah, just talk about that a little bit more.
I mean, like I did in the second service, I kind of joked about it. I said, after 30 years, if I am a pastor and after 30 years I retire, then what am I? Yeah. And I joked and said, relieved.
You didn't do that first service?
No, I
didn't. That's great. I got a lot of chuckles.
It did. Yeah, it was a good one.
Yeah.
And there is some truth to that,
is.
like there is some relief that comes from that. But there is also, I can imagine a loss of identity in that. And I think a lot of people experience that. Like I talk to a lot of people, especially early on in retirement, before they get their bearings, that first year or two for people can be really difficult because, if you were a leader in the office environment and then it feels like no one really needs you now.
Right.
That's a pretty big loss.
Well, and don't you think that's even kind of some of the struggle that people, even in the workforce, struggle with, is that, like, there can be, if you're in the working environment, you're getting all of these accolades, right?
For sure.
Of, like, your successes and, like, all of this stuff is happening. So I can do that, and I can get really, like, built up and kind of cheered on and all of this support. So that can like win out or over like what I'm experiencing at home. That's not what's happening at home.
Right.
So if I'm like trying to balance those things, home life feels maybe a little more like just kind of the demands of that does not get the cheering on. Like I'm dealing with running kids here and there and I'm dealing with like financial stressors and I'm dealing with like all of the things that home life comes with does like not necessarily like balance out.
So that discovery experience, I get applause, but no one ever cheers.
Nobody's home.
I do the dishes. I don't hear anyone clapping.
No one's clapping. Right. I took the trash down.
Right.
Yeah.
So it is that's a tension.
Right.
Yeah, for sure.
You brought up in that same theme, the Dallas Willard quote. And so I don't have my phone, and I know you said, is there anything I need to look up before we started? But it was around the idea of like, what I do is not who I am, right?
Becoming the most important thing is about a person is not what they do, but who they are becoming.
Yeah, and I just thought, man, that's if we could get in that mindset.
Yes.
For that's ministry too.
For sure.
Like, my goodness, so...
Yeah, and so like the other side of that too is like, when you're in that environment that you were just talking about where you're getting the accolades and you're getting the feedback and you have responsibility, it feels as if, like this is productive. And everyone wants to have that sense. Mm-hmm. And then you step out of that into the retirement world and you feel like I've lost a sense of purpose or direction. And that's where that Dallas Willard quote really starts to matter because, who you're becoming is more important than what you were doing anyway. So, like, if you do those couple of shifts that we talked about in the message yesterday while you're working, and now the people that you're working with are the most important part of what you do, then when you leave work, it's still that same responsibility. Mm-hmm. Responsibility is still there. It's the people around you that matter the most, and what you're doing to bring God's kingdom to bear on those relationships that you have, whether you're in the workplace or out of the workplace, is irrelevant at that point. And then your sense of purpose is not lost. Yeah. Because God's sense of purpose, like your sense of purpose from God you don't retire from that. So if you can change your mindset while you're still working, when you go into retirement, it won't be quite as big a battle, probably. You know?
Yeah. Because I love this. You said this yesterday. The point of work in the garden wasn't that Adam and Eve's work revealed who they were. Their work was to reveal who God was.
Yes.
Their work was an extension of the image of God in them.
Yes.
So the fall happened. So what effect did sin have on humankind's relationship with work?
Yeah, all the things that we've kind of hit on some of that, but let me just kind of back up to that extension piece because it is really like it's so fascinating when you look at the creation story and the responsibility that's given to mankind is to reign and protect this environment, which up until that point had been God's job. So he entrusts us. That's where that identity, we find our identity in who God is, and we find our identity in, so like the work that we do is an extension of our real work, the real work that we do. Like it doesn't matter the work that you do, whether you're changing oil in a car or you're, whatever your job happens to be. That doesn't matter. Your responsibility is the same. It's an extension of God's glory. You are because you're an image bearer of God, in what you do, you should reveal the glory of God in that place that you work. And he's given us his responsibility of protecting and governing and reigning, which is his ultimate responsibility, and he's entrusted that to us. So in our work environments, we're to create thriving environments, just like that was the job that Adam and Eve have, to cause that environment that was already thriving to continue to thrive, because God put it into motion as a thriving environment. Now their job was to maintain that. Of course, they didn't do a very good job.
Yeah.
But
I know we're going to get to like the redemption of all this at Jesus, and you got to that. But I thought this was interesting as you were reading that yesterday, and it talks about how like what Adam will now have to do because of the fall. And I thought for a second, I was like, well, that doesn't really like, we're not farmers. Like a lot of us aren't farmers now, so we're not like working the fields.
yeah.
This is going to sound very elementary, but I'm sorry. That's where I'm at. For me, it stood out as like, oh, we still carry the same pressures that that was put on Adam now. Our work might look different.
Yeah.
And we might be doing all different things.
Yep.
But like those pressures are all still the same, providing for your family, the stress of putting too much into your work and not paying attention to what's going on. So I know that sounds very basic, but when you got through that part yesterday, like that's what really stood out to me. I was like, oh man, it still relates.
Right.
Those consequences are still true today.
Yeah.
Even though we're not farmers,
Right.
Most of us.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the effect, right, of
That
the
is the
sin.
effect,
it's the
right.
tension in what we produce and the tension even in
Yep.
our relationships with one another.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was the relationship tension
Yeah.
was big. Yeah.
Definitely. So yeah, are we stuck there?
Yeah, I mean that would be depressing if this whole series was to point out like the consequences
so that's
of the fall.
consequences.
Yep.
And
Here
now
we
you're
sit.
you're stuck.
And we just got to wait till heaven.
Yep. And that's how a lot of people live, and that's how a lot of people think. I can't wait to get to heaven because it's going to be so great there. But what Jesus called us to was to bring, when he taught us to pray, his part of the prayer was, may your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And that doesn't just magically happen. Like you don't just pray for God's will to be done and his will is done. You pray for his will to be done and then you are the doer of his will.
Right.
That's what we are called to. And so we can bring his will to bear on our work environments and in our home environments and in our neighborhood environments. And that's the victory that comes through Christ, which is what's referenced in our theme verse from 1 Corinthians 15. The victory that comes through Christ is not heaven when we die. It's creating thriving lives right here and right now. And that is what we're called to. Mm-hmm. And like to think, I kind of hit on it in the prayer, and I wish I had hit on it more in my message. It didn't occur to me until I was praying that I didn't. But like, what would it look like if all of our students went to school today thinking about like the most important thing about about me in school, yes, the task is important, learning, but really the most important thing is the people I'm going to school with, and how can I make their lives thrive as a student. And what would it look like if everyone who was a believer today went into their office with the mindset of, my job is to be an extension of the work of God in this place to create a thriving environment? Like, what if all of us had a goal of, creating this patch of Eden where we were?
Yeah.
How much better would life be for us? I was just someone in our office this morning experienced a tragedy from their family, a violent act in another city, and they lost a loved one, and like the heartbreak of that. But what if everyone in that town, viewed their job as creating thriving environments? Like, couldn't we push back against some of the stuff that's happening in our world today? Like, we don't have to just wring our hands and complain about how things are going,
right?
Which is what it seems like a lot of us do.
Yeah.
Instead, we should be proactive about bringing God's kingdom to bear on the environments that we're in.
Yeah. Yes. So you had, our big idea was, we are the work of God created for the work of God.
Yes. Pretty simple.
Yeah, pretty simple.
Yeah.
Which is what we try to do with
Try
our
to
big
do.
ideas.
Yes.
So you said doing God's work in the world doesn't mean I have to change my work, but it does mean I have to change my boss.
Yes.
To which Nate leaned over and said, he just Jesus juked all of us.
I did Jesus juke everyone. Every once in a while, Nate, you have to do it.
Yeah, it's required.
Sometimes it works.
Yes.
Everyone loved it.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, everyone loved it. In the second service anyway, there was like a huge oh.
Yeah.
So, yeah, which I love this. And you started talking about it a little bit. But, yeah, Christian, you talked a little bit coming off of that, just about, like, your job, like, as a pastor.
Right.
Kind of gets the obviously.
Well, obviously,
like,
your work matters.
Work matters.
Right.
But what about everybody else's jobs then? Like that, there's this feeling that then what? Everyone else's jobs can't possibly do this thing.
Right.
So I want to talk a little bit about that. And then even how the purpose of the hub and how that even fits this model, of what we're talking about here.
Yeah. So, that whole secular sacred divide in the workplace, and like we've done a real disservice talking in those terms about that, because students, I've talked to students through the years who are just really wrestling with, what would almost like, in order to do something that really matters, they're having to think about ministry options, which, ministry options are great, and more people should consider them, because we can't do this forever.
Right.
So, we need more people going into ministry for sure. But when we create a tiered kind of system, and that's not just secular, sacred. It gets talked about a fair amount, even blue collar, white collar, like trades versus other things. Like, we've just done a real disservice in our culture to diminish a whole swath of people and what they do. But if you could think about it in these terms, every job you have is a sacred job if your mission is to bring God's kingdom to bear on the environment that you find yourself in. So it doesn't matter if you're welding at the shipyard, or if you're an IT guy somewhere, or if you're a sailor, it doesn't really matter. Your responsibility is the same. Your task is different, but your overall responsibility is the same. And Paul, the Apostle Paul, he managed to do both. He was missionary, he was bivocational, he was also a tent maker, and he talked a lot in his letters to churches about how he would not accept money from them. He wanted to be self-sufficient so that no one could accuse him of being in it for the money. And so he was, this tradesman, basically. And I'm sure he operated his secular business with integrity and excellence and all of the things that you would expect from someone who's working for Jesus, you know?
Yeah. I love too how you talked to the students about finding their dream job, and I thought that was.
We've
such
also
a
done a
good,
disservice with that.
Yeah.
And we've created, like, I even watched it in my own kids because I sort of did it with my own kids, you know, like, then they get to this moment, well, you know, what am I most passionate about? And how do I make a living being passionate about this thing when there doesn't seem like there's any money to be made there? And then you have this crisis of, now what do I do? And I think it's an unfair sell to our kids, to put that kind of pressure on them. And that's why kids are going to school and getting degrees in things that don't matter, right? Because they think that that's what they're supposed to be doing, you know, where the reality is, like, we just need Jesus loving people in the workplace everywhere. And more of it, not less of it, you know? So, yeah.
That's good.
So any last thoughts on even just the hub and like how we've handled this place after that whole idea?
Yeah, so the whole idea of the hub is, you know, it's this event center for our community, and it's not a sacred event center, it's an event center. And our idea with this, and some people take issue with it, but you don't have to agree with us theologically to host an event here, to hold an event here. We want to show the love of Jesus to everyone in our community who wants to do an event, no matter who they are. And so when they interact with our staff, they're interacting with people who love Jesus, and they're treated with integrity, and the service offered is excellent, and it's our, like, it. Yeah, people get so hung up on this idea of, you know, but it's a Christian event center, but it's not. It's like saying, like, Chick-fil-A's, like, you know, it gets joked about a lot, you know, Christian chicken. But the best I know, they sell chicken to everybody.
Right.
You know, and what they do is what makes them stand out. You know, it's their customer service, it's their integrity, it's how they do their business that stands out, not that they will only do business with people who agree with them.
Right.
And that's kind of how we feel about the hub. It's for our community.
Yeah.
And everyone in our community is welcome at the hub, just like everyone in our community is welcome at Believers, by the way.
Good.
Yeah. Very good. Well, that's all we've got time for today. In the meantime, we look forward to seeing you this Sunday as we continue our Made for This series. We will have services on campus at 9 and 10:45, and you can always join us at 1 o'clock on YouTube. And until then, we hope that you will go and be love. We'll see you next Sunday.